So, in the last chapter, one of the things that we find out is that Luffy has rescued Koby from Alvida, and he is now on his way to the Navy town where Zoro has been kept held hostage. And I want to make something clear to you guys. Yes, Luffy's going to ask Zoro to join his crew, but when I was recording these reviews, I didn't know that Viz changed Zoro's name from Zolo. So you're going to hear me refer to Zoro as Zolo for probably about a volume and a half because I pre-recorded the first two volumes. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Without any further ado, let's get right into the chapter review. Now, this chapter of One Piece is once again another pleasant surprise. You have Luffy, and when he touches down on this on this island, he docks his ship, and he and Koby, they're walking around, they go to the restaurant, and they get some food, and right away, you notice that things aren't exactly right. You know, Luffy gets told, hey, I don't know how you even made it this far. You really need to find a navigator. You'll just be floating around without one. And Luffy's like, yeah, navigator, sure. I'll get one of those later. Like, okay, Koby just navigated. He could help you. But at the same time, Koby wants to become a great Navy man. So it just makes sense why he wouldn't ask him. And so they have their meal. And one of the things that Luffy does is he says, like, yeah, I guess we're just parting ways here. You know, you're going to be a great Navy guy. I'm going to be the king of the pirates. And I hope you become a really great Navy guy, Koby. And what's really interesting about this is that Luffy comes off very genuine. It's very interesting. It's like, dude, you just helped your enemy. And even Koby acknowledges it. You know, Koby flat out says, like, you know, we're going to be enemies one day. And you can tell Luffy's just like, we'll be enemies one day, but for right now, we're friends. And that's something very admirable. You know, it's very interesting. You know, it's like one of those things that you see in the new X-Men films that they're doing, where you see Professor X and Magneto, and you as the audience know that these two are going to have some really big disagreements in the future, but for the here and now, they're friends. And so it's the same thing here. And so it's almost bittersweet to watch Luffy and Koby interact in this way because they're going to be enemies at one point and they are going to be fighting. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that's handled. Now, the other thing that's pretty cool is the fact that you find out things aren't right when Luffy is like, yeah, let's go find that Zolo guy. And the people, they immediately freak out when they hear Zolo's name. And you know, Kobe's just like, what's going on? And Luffy's just laughing his ass off at this point because he just finds it hilarious. And I just like this guy's mentality. You know, he's like that lovable idiot that, you know, you can tell he is being genuine and he's trying to be serious, but he's just such a knuckleheaded idiot. So I like what you see out of Luffy there. But, you know, Kobe is just like, well, I don't get why they would be like this. You know, this is Captain Morgan's place. And all of a sudden everybody's just all up against the wall and they're freaking out. And so that's your first sign that things aren't exactly what they appear to be. And so Luffy follows Koby and Luffy looks up over a wall and he's like, oh, that's that guy right there. I guess that's him. And when Koby takes a look, he sees the black sash, he sees the bandana, and he says, this guy will kill us, don't release him. And Luffy's just like, yeah, I'm going to go untie this guy and ask him to join my crew, or maybe I'll ask him. I haven't made my mind up yet. You know, it really shows you that Luffy does have a bit of a standard when it comes to who he'll let join his crew, because when he does speak to Zolo, one of the things he says is like, yo, you got a pretty bad reputation. I haven't made my mind up if I'm going to let you join my crew. And Zolo's just like, I'm a pirate hunter. Why would I join a pirate crew? Have you lost your mind? And Luffy is just like, in one ear, out the other ear. And what's really cool about that is, you know, you got this little girl. She hops over the fence. Just really, really sweet. Best intentions. And all of a sudden, you got this smush-faced little bastard, Helmipo. And he shows up and he's just like, hey, why are you giving Zolo these rice cakes? And he eats them. And he's like, these are too sweet. And he stomps on them. And the little girl puts so much time and effort into making the meal. And you can tell she was being really genuine when she says, well, I like sweets, so I thought that Mr. Zolo would like them as well. And we find out why she feels the need to kind of pay Zolo back and to be nice to him. It's because Helmipo's dogs were attacking this girl, and Zolo just happened to be passing town, and he ends up saving her from the dogs, but it ends up putting him in the prison or whatnot. And the reason why I call him this little smush face little bastard is Hell Meepo, right? He has this moment where he looks at the little girl and he says like, yeah, you know what? You're really lucky my daddy didn't see you, right? He's everything I hate out of just spoiled, rotten, rich, entitled people. And he thinks that his status and money automatically makes him better than everybody. He says like, hey, if my dad would have saw you, you'd have been put to death. If you'd have been an adult, you definitely would have been put to death. And he orders his men to throw the little girl over the fence, and Luffy catches her. And that's another thing. It's like he's doing what Shanks would have done at this point. So you can really tell that Luffy really looks up to Shanks. So I thought that was pretty cool. But what's really interesting is the fact that when Luffy goes over to speak to Zolo, Zolo all of a sudden he swallows his pride after telling Luffy, I've been here for 9 days, and that spoiled little brat, he's gonna let me go after 30 days, gonna let me go free, and I'm gonna tough it out. And Luffy's just like, yeah, I could never go that long without food, and just fasting period is pretty damn intense. Like I've done a couple of fasts. I mean, it takes a lot of mental willpower, and that's one of the things that Zolo says. He says like, hey, I got tougher mentality than you do, man. Like, don't lump me in the same category with you. And then in the next sentence, this is the humor, right? This is that shonen humor. In the next sentence, Zolo is just like, hey, can you pick up that rice? Don't miss a grain. Feed it to me. And when Luffy tells this little girl that Zolo ate every drop despite it being covered in dirt and like that snot-nosed little brat, Helmepo's bottom of his shoe and all that, he ate every single drop. You can tell just made that little girl's day. And it just shows like there's more to this super angry, beastly pirate hunter Zolo, because it takes a different type of person to do something and to make themselves that uncomfortable just so somebody else can feel better about themselves. It says a lot about his character, man. Like his character as a man. I really like that, because I'll be honest with you, that was me. I wouldn't eat that shit. Like, there ain't no way I would have ate that. So, I mean, yeah, maybe he was hungry, but, there was an ulterior motive to that, because he wanted, Luffy to kind of pass the message on. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But, chapter ends off with, Helmepo just walking around, and everyone is bowing their heads, and Luffy's like, I ain't bowing to this dude. Fuck that. Luffy walks up to this guy, and you can tell the way Luffy is going to communicate with a lot of people going forward is if he thinks that you're worth it, he's gonna punch you in the face. And he just walks up to Helmepo, knocks this dude out. And when they're saying you want to make a enemy out the Navy, he's like, yeah, whatever, and proceeds to walk off. And the reason why he does this is because of how he's treating the people who are bowing down to him. But also, he's doing it because he hears that Helmepo is going to be putting Zolo to death in only a few days, despite the fact that they had an agreement. And so you can tell, like with Luffy, keeping your word is a pretty big deal, man. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I kind of like that, man. So it feels like the dude Zolo, Luffy, he's changing his mind, and so he's probably going to ask this guy to join the crew. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this one goes forward. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of leave off with a chapter question for you guys. So, excuse me, but what I want to ask you all is, how do you feel about what Zolo did when he ate that rice, and it's made out of sweets and it's covered in dirt, all this stuff? He ate that rice also that little girl could feel better about herself. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And have you ever had a situation where you've put yourself in an inconvenient situation, also someone else could feel better? What was the situation? How did it work out for you? And did the person ever realize what you did for them? But as always, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.